What if I told you that you're losing arguments not because you're wrong, but because you don't know the game being played against you? You know you're right. You've got the facts. However, somehow they're winning. Your face gets hot. Your words get tangled. 5 minutes later, you think of the perfect thing you should have said. There's a reason this keeps happening, and it has nothing to do with being right. Here's the truth. Arguments aren't won by logic. They're lost by ego. Over the past 2 years, I've studied 10 methods that completely change how arguments work. Some are weak, some are dangerous. However, one thing ties them all together, and most people never figure it out. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which methods work, which ones fail, and the one truth that makes everything else click. Stay until the end, because that's where everything changes. First up, the judo move. Imagine you're arguing with a coworker about a project deadline. They come at you hard. This timeline is impossible. You're being unrealistic. Most people push back harder. No, it's totally doable. Therefore, they get stuck in a shoving match that nobody wins. But what if you don't push back at all? Instead, you agree. You're right. This timeline is aggressive. They weren't expecting this. Their energy has nowhere to go. But then you add, there's just one part I want to understand better. If we adjust these two tasks, doesn't that solve the biggest bottleneck? This is judo. You use their force against them. When you admit they're right about something, it gives you the power to redirect where you need to go. People see disagreement as strength. However, real strength is controlling the fight by not fighting at all. The problem? This doesn't give you full control. You're still playing their game. It's solid, but there are sharper tools. Next, the Socrates trick. Picture this. Your friend says, college is a waste of time. Successful people drop out all the time. Instead of arguing, you ask, so you're saying a degree guarantees nothing? Exactly. Okay, but then don't skills, connections, and timing matter just as much as whether you dropped out or not? Watch what happens. They pause. They start seeing the holes themselves. You didn't lecture them. You guided them to their own conclusion. However, here's the power move. People trust what they figure out more than what you tell them. Arguments aren't won by force, they're lost by ego. The downside, this takes patience. If someone's emotional or rushed, questions feel like attacks. Number 3, magic words. Imagine arguing with your partner about vacation plans. You could say, you never listen to what I want. Or you could say, I feel like my ideas aren't being heard. One word changed, you to I, and suddenly you're not attacking, you're sharing. But then there's the deeper trick. Slip in phrases that bypass logic. Of course, we both want what's best here. Your brain hears, of course, and thinks, yeah, obviously. You just agreed without realizing it. Pair this with the right tone. Calm, confident, and people start nodding before they know why. This is smooth. However, it's surface level. In a serious debate, you need more firepower. Method 4, the big ask. You're negotiating a raise with your boss. You want 15% more. Therefore, you ask for 30%. That's way too high. Okay, I understand. How about 15%? Suddenly, 15% sounds reasonable. They feel like they negotiated you down. You got exactly what you wanted. The moment you try to win, you've already lost. However, here's the catch. This only works in negotiations. In a regular argument, people smell the trick a mile away. Here's where things shift. Method 5, the information avalanche. Imagine you're in a meeting. Someone challenges your proposal. You respond, have you considered the 20% failure rate in similar projects? The Q3 market data showing demand increased? The feedback from 3 industry experts who said this exact approach works? Their brain can't process it all at once. They feel overwhelmed. However, here's what happens. They can't respond to everything, so they respond to nothing. Silence looks like surrender. This is powerful. Dangerously powerful. But it has a darker twin, Method 6, the lie avalanche. Same strategy as before, but with one ugly twist. Half your facts don't need to be true. There's actually a law about this, Brandolini's law. It says the energy needed to disprove something is 10 times greater than the energy needed to say it. Therefore, throw out 10 claims, and they'll only fact-check 2 before giving up. Here's how to beat someone using this on you. Don't fact-check everything. Call out the game. You're throwing too much at me. Let's focus on one thing, but then pick their weakest claim and tear it apart completely. This method works. However, get caught lying once and your credibility is gone forever. If you've ever seen any of these tricks in real life, hit like and subscribe. It helps more than you think. Method 7. The distraction. You're losing. The facts aren't on your side, your argument's falling apart. Therefore, you shift the conversation. Just slightly. Sure, but what about this other issue that affects everything? This is the red herring. You're not trying to win anymore. You're buying time and confusing them. It's been a debate trick since 1807. Imagine arguing about budgets at work. You're losing the numbers game. But then you say, before we worry about cost, shouldn't we talk about team morale first? You just changed the battlefield. It works. However, anyone sharp will call it out. That's not what we're discussing. Method 8, the small yes. People hate changing their minds. Their identity is wrapped up in being consistent. Therefore, don't ask them to change. Get them to agree with something tiny first. Do you think everyone deserves to be treated with respect? Of course. Then we can agree that in this situation, ignoring someone's input isn't fair, right? They already said yes to step 1. Now it's psychologically harder to say no to step 2. You're building a bridge made of agreements. The catch, if they disagree with your first point, the whole structure collapses. Method 9, the power of 3. Our brains are pattern machines. Give someone one reason, they forget. Give them 5, they tune out. But 3 feels complete. I believe this works because 1, it's cost-effective. 2, it's been tested. However, 3, the data proves it scales. 3 feels official, true, final. This is why every great speech, every product pitch, every inspiring message uses 3 points. Politicians know it. Marketers know it. Now you know it. Method 10, the instant comeback. Someone takes a shot at you. You fire back immediately with something sharp and clever. At least I showed up on time. Everyone laughs. You look like you won that moment. However, here's the truth. You didn't win the argument. You just won 10 seconds. The argument keeps going, and now they're angry and focused on destroying you. It's flashy. However, flash doesn't win. Strategy does. So which method is best? Here's where most people get it completely wrong. They think you pick one method and master it. That's not how any of this works. You could master all 10 methods and still lose every argument. Why? Because there's one thing they never teach you. The secret isn't in the methods, it's in reading the person in front of you. Someone emotional? Don't drown them in facts, they won't hear a word. Someone logical? Don't crack jokes, they'll think you're not serious. Someone defensive? Don't use judo, they'll think you're patronizing them. However, there's something deeper, something under all of this. Here it is. The best way to win any argument is to make the other person feel heard first. Not outsmarted, not defeated, heard. When someone feels like you actually understand their point, even if you disagree, their defenses drop. They stop fighting to be right and start listening to find the truth. But then, and only then, can any method actually work. You can throw information avalanches, use magic words, or build bridges of agreement. But if the other person feels dismissed, none of it lands. They shut down. Therefore, before you try to win, show them you understand what they care about. This isn't manipulation, it's real communication. The strongest arguments aren't won by crushing your opponent. They're won by bringing them to your side. Listen first, reflect what matters to them, but then guide the conversation using whichever method fits that moment. That's the game behind the game. Master this and you'll never lose an argument the same way again. Thanks for watching, and until next time.